The case against Richard Allen, the alleged Delphi murderer, it continues to get some steam as we get closer and closer to that trial date. And of course, as we know, most things in trials are decided and worked out before the actual trial takes place. And Bob Motta, of course, was there for all of that. You've been traveling and watching this very closely since its inception. Of course, Bob Motta Defense Diaries, the podcast, and a defense attorney. Go check that out. Go download it. Give me the update here. You've been in the room for Wednesday or Tuesday and Wednesday. And you're going to be there Thursday as well. We're recording this on Wednesday, but yeah, what's been going on?
A lot of motion work. A
Yeah.
lot of motion work that's been kind of hanging out there in the ether for the better part of a year on some of these motions. Some of them aren't quite that old, but a lot of them are pretty stale. Tuesday it started out with, and you can't bring phones in, so it's like
Yeah.
you got to get in line because it's one of those cases. It's a small courthouse. There's like 39 seats available to because they have a certain amount set up for the family, and then of both the victims obviously, and then
Yeah.
Allen's people too. So it leaves 39 seats in that courtroom. So people get out there early.
How early were you in line?
I like the first day, like I'm always paranoid. I was out there by like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, and the court didn't start till 10.
So
They don't let us in the
Did you bring
building
a
until
picnic
8.
blanket? Did you?
No, man, I should have.
Tailgate?
So yeah, like fortunately a coffee shop behind the courthouse opened at like 7, so I went over there.
Yeah.
Got a little coffee and some breakfast. But yeah, so first day was basically they had a few motions that they did on the first day, which were a motion to vacate the safekeeping order. Now, the safekeeping order, if you don't know what that is, essentially when Allen was first arrested and they got him into custody and they had him over at the Carroll County Jail, which is in Delphi, Indiana, which is a very small town, very small community, hence a very small jail. They didn't think they could handle it. They were worried that somebody was going to try to kill this guy. Is it like, if you're not familiar with Delphi, it's been going on for 7 years. The thing went like 5 cold for 5.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you. I know you know.
Yeah, they put him in maximum
If we
security
have any
instead.
viewers out there, so it's like they immediately took him in front of the judge and said, "We can't handle him. Like we're afraid he's going to get killed, and we don't have the facilities to keep him safe."
Is it a legitimate argument? Let me ask you that, because we've criticized it for the last better part of a year. Is it a legitimate argument, though, for that jail to say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Carroll County, yeah, like
Okay.
it is. It's a very small jail. They don't really have like you're in
Sure.
kind of in Gen Pop.
Okay.
There is nowhere
You're
to.
like in the drunk tank permanently almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
mean, the reality is in prison, like they don't make the distinction of, pretrial
Sure.
detainee or,
Sure.
you're in there as a suspected child killer. They're going to treat you as such.
Yeah.
They don't wait for, to find you guilty. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous. I mean, I think anybody who knows anything about the system knows that, pedophiles, people that, do harm to children don't have a tendency to last long in prison. It's kind of like
Sure.
a code of honor among thieves, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
with respect to jail. So I think there's some legitimacy to it. But they tried to get him moved back in June of last year. They had it set up in a county that's much, much closer to where the lawyers are in the Carroll County, Cass County. That sheriff said, "Yeah, we don't want him, but we can take him. We've just upgraded our jail. We've added a new wing to it. We've got more modern facilities. We can handle them. We don't
Sure.
we don't want to deal with them, but we'll take them if need be." Judge denied it. So now it's been a year plus, and he's still in prison, still sitting in prison. And so they brought it up again, and now, and the other part of it is not just the safety aspect, but your right to counsel. Like, I mean, you have to be able to get to your client to prepare for trial, which is coming in October, and that is the blink of an eye, in
Yeah.
terms of preparing for a case. So, and for Rosie, one of the defense attorneys, it's a 200-mile drive
Yeah.
to see his client. For Baldwin, it's 2.5 hours. And, so they argued it. There really was nothing new other
Hmm.
than the fact that they moved him from Westville Penitentiary to Wabash Valley Penitentiary. So he's still in Department of Corrections. Back in December, they moved him, kind of like under cover of darkness. Like
Yeah.
nobody knew,
Remember that.
like, who, and like, why did they move him? What happened? What's going on? Is he still alive?
Yeah.
All the things that people were saying. So, they go through the arguments. There, like a lot of it is the same arguments that were made initially. But the bigger thing now is, and it's a legitimate beef. I mean, McClellan, the prosecutor, was kind of like uh, giving the defense shit, like, "Oh, you're whining. This is all really just because the guy's not close to Brad. His office. He's got to drive." And I'm like, like when you're preparing for a trial like this, you do not have 7 hours to kill.
And why is that a bad argument to make? I mean, not only that, but just the fact that he's in maximum security prison, which,
Right.
I mean, and you have another jail that has said, look, I get it. You guys don't have the way to do this, the way you think it should be done right. We'll do them over here. And they still, the court, it goes back to kind of the weird cabal that goes on in Delphi. And
Yeah, it's
I'm, I use that kind of lightly, but at the same point, I'm not. I mean, it's just this whole thing of like, we're going to do what we're going to do. And we don't really give a shit what
Yeah,
would
I
be
mean,
right.
like they're hell bent on getting a conviction on this case, and he might be the guy,
Yeah.
which we'll get to
Yeah. Yeah.
in a little bit here, because the motion that I was in 12 hours in there today, 12 hours in line in the courtroom, because she didn't end it till 6:30 Eastern. It was a very
Yeah.
long day. But so at any rate, one of the arguments that the defense made is like, look, like while we're having this 3 days of hearing, Allen's being held in Cass County,
Hmm.
and he's being transported. It's much closer. This is where the trial is going to be. Let's just keep him here
Yeah.
through the trial, which is a few more months. And,
Hmm.
they've got it worked out. The sheriff of Cass County's okay with it. Indiana State Police said that they'll provide another cruiser and a dude. So it sounds like it's all worked out, but it's still ultimately up to Judge Gull.
Yeah.
She's the one who's pulled the trigger on it. So that was heard. She took that under advisement. She did not in any way, shape, or form, which frankly you want. I mean, on that one, she probably could have made a ruling. Like at this point, just grant it.
Yeah.
But
Why are
she's
we still
probably like,
waiting? Yeah.
right. I mean, she's probably of the mindset, because I mean, the reality is once it gets to trial, they're going to keep him in Cass anyway. There's no
Yeah.
way they're driving that dude 200 miles
And
like
it's not
every
like
day.
she hasn't had a moment to think about this either,
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But there's more
So
motions that
yeah,
happened
so the
today.
first day they had that motion. That took up pretty much the whole morning, and then they had the defense had another motion to compel and a motion for sanctions. The basis of this motion was that the state has been very late in their discovery, tendering it over to the defense.
Hmm.
In some cases, 10 months past the discovery deadline dates. Additionally, they're claiming that there's information that they never got at all. That there's information that they know exists that they're still waiting for. So they kind of went through everything with that, and the sanctions they're asking for is that she give date certain, like in terms of, okay, if you have discovery, we want it within 7 days of you guys getting it.
Sure.
We want date certain for stuff that's outstanding that you say that you have. We want it by like August 13th.
Yeah.
So like the sanctions aren't really like they're asking for punishment. Other than
Just be reasonable on what you're getting and let's move this along and not have to have somebody begging for it in a hearing.
exactly, and like I mean, there is like a couple of the things that they're saying that were very late disclosed. The defense is asking for them to bar that evidence. And like McClellan's argument was like, well, no, that's the most extreme remedy. You just grant a continuance. Like if they need time to dig into this shit, especially with like the geofencing stuff came real late.
Hmm.
And there's another phone extraction that has been just kind of hanging there in the wind forever.
Hmm.
And they're still waiting to get that. Apparently, a new version of Cellubrite, which is a tool law enforcement uses in order to extract
Mhm.
data from phones. A new version of that came out. So he's running that report and he's analyzing it, and they're supposed to be turning that over. That's what they're asking for by the 13th of August. So kind of left it there. I think the judge will probably rule like, look, I'm good with the give. We're getting close to trial. Give it to
Yeah.
him in 7 days. If you
Yeah.
got it, date certain on the ones that we know exist and that you haven't turned over, and just play nice with each other. Let's just get this thing moving. We're going to trial,
Yeah.
because she talked about today. And again, if our viewers don't know, this was been set for trial. It's been set a couple times, but
Yes.
the most recent time was supposed to go in mid-May.
Mhm.
That got kicked. But they had already sent out the jury questionnaires back then. They sent 600 out. If you don't know anything about the case, they are importing a jury from Allen County, which is a much bigger county, and it's kind of where Fort Wayne, Indiana
Mhm.
is. Probably the second biggest city next to Indianapolis. So they're going to be
Yeah.
they're going to put the jury up there. They're going to bring them down. So we just found out today that the jury questionnaires are going out tomorrow. Another 600 of them. So the wheels are in motion again. This thing looks like it's going to really go in October. Unfortunately, Gull is not going to be televising it because, frankly, everybody that was obsessed with Karen Reed, this thing's all of that and more.
Made everybody think twice about let's put cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that was the second motion. She took that under advisement as well, and this is all yesterday. And then the third motion, which was the one I was kind of looking for the most yesterday, was the defense had filed a motion to dismiss, and it was based on the overall concept that essentially that law enforcement has ghosted a bunch of evidence in order to hide the fact that there's other suspects out there,
Mhm.
namely like Brad Holder. They were really focusing on this guy, Brad Holder. They were looking at him real early. Like when the girls went missing, a bunch of people
Yeah.
called in on this guy. They're like, dude, look at this guy. So they called him in on the 17th, which was, 3 days after the girls were discovered over on Ron Logan's property, deceased. And, they have no, like, so that's the video. It was taped
Gone.
over.
Yep.
Gone,
Oops. The
vanished, right.
DVR didn't work. We put a TiVo in there from '02 and it ran out of
Exactly.
its 100 megabyte space or some bullshit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I'm going to look through my notes a little bit because there was a
A
lot.
lot.
And
Yeah.
so they also, and then the other thing that they're trying to insinuate is that, so Andrew Baldwin, who's one of the other defense attorneys, calls one of the young lawyers up in the courtroom, real dramatic. It reminded me of that scene from Miracle on 34th Street when they have Santa on the stand, and the way that he proves it is by dumping all the mail, like, all the letters to Santa. That's how you prove Santa exists. So he brings out, like, he lets this kid put these giant piles of paper. Okay, so he puts like three or four of them on the table. They're about a foot and a half high.
Okay.
And he's like, Your Honor, he's like, I just bought these to be, for demonstrative evidence so that you could see each one of these pile represents one phone dump extraction. So, and what they've done is they have extracted 101 phones.
Okay.
Okay. And this is the amount of data printed out, what it looks like. And, so he's arguing and he's arguing. Yet, however, out of the 101 phones that they extracted, the one that they're claiming they didn't extract was Brad Holder.
Of course.
So, right. So, like, they
Oops.
extracted Holder's son, his phone, who was dating Abby. Like, they were young. I think he
Okay.
was 15 and she was 13, but they were talking on the phone.
Sure. Kids.
They've
Yeah.
gotten together a couple times. Like there's a knowledge there.
Yeah.
There's a connection between the Holders and one of the victims. And then you have all this shit that Brad Holder's posting on his Facebook. The dude's like a self-proclaimed Odinist. Like, there's no
There
hiding it.
is.
Like,
Yes.
this is it.
It's
Yeah.
not a hidden thing. When people
No.
go into like the Odin thing is bullshit. No, it's actually not. Like, just
Right.
here's where you can go look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
So like that argument goes on forever. And Baldwin really focuses on, here, pause it 1 sec.
Yep.
Hello. Yeah, they were supposed to bring it up to my room. I put my room up there. Oh, yeah, awesome. Just can you tell them to leave it by my door? Thank you so much. All right, bye. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Got here.
What'd you order?
There was a barbecue spot that was like really close to the hotel.
Oh, cool.
Got some pulled pork.
Nice.
Easy.
Yeah.
Like a pound of meat, bro. That's
nice. You deserved after sitting on that fucking bench all day.
Dude, that was so brutal.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you ready to roll?
Yep. Just pick it up from there. I'll edit.
Okay. So like all Baldwin really did focus primarily on Holder, and just the fact that they didn't really appear to have done any investigation, or if they did, what they've done is they've disappeared it all to make him seem like he's not the guy. So they put on multiple cops, including Jerry Holman, who is the lieutenant, Indiana State Police, one of the main dudes. You got Doug Carter, Jerry Holman, Tony Liggett are the kind of the main three dudes.
Mm-hmm.
The Unified Command, which is the little core group of
Yeah.
the investigating team. And they claimed that they cleared Brad Holder like early, and that they had cleared him through his time card from work, which had him at work by 4:55 a.m., taking lunch at 12:22, coming back from lunch at 12:42, and then leaving work at 2:35. In the meantime, they say, well, how far is his the landfill where he works? How far is that from the High Bridge? And they say it's about a 35-minute drive. In the meantime, Holman says, well, we believe that the time of death of the girls is between 2:30 and 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in their minds, that alibis him out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So but what the reality is it's twofold in my estimation. It's one that you have a guy who has about two hours, because the next thing he does after work is he goes to Anytime Fitness and uses Bob. And that's at about, I want to say 4:35-ish, or right around there. Maybe it was a little earlier. And so you've got this period of time from the time he gets off work to where he goes and works out. And he posted that day, and he was like that post that he did on that day was like, my testosterone is raging. Like as soon as he gets to the gym, it was just a weird post.
It's a weird, yeah.
But like my bigger thing is not so much that he's alibied based on their shitty timeline. It's
exactly
like where did you get this timeline? Is your timeline? Are you doing a Murdoch? That like that's the last time.
Is it just him giving the timeline? Of, well, that's fact. He said it must be true.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm talking about when they think, right. Like, I mean, we don't know what the ME says. Like, I don't know when the ME is, because as far as we know, the girls aren't discovered until the following morning.
Yeah.
Later in the morning. And they could have been killed at any point after they were, abducted from the bridge.
Yeah.
We just don't know. And now it comes out that Libby's phone pings at 4:30 a.m. like inexplicably, like off the tower, as if the phone had been moved and like went active again.
Mm-hmm.
So and no one's got an explanation for that, and that's a huge deal. So my point is that how are they clearing a guy how do you clear him without extracting his phone when he's got a known connection to the victim, when you've got a crime scene that obviously looks like it was staged to mimic a ritualistic sacrifice? I mean, nobody really thinks that it was an actual ritualistic sacrifice.
Yeah.
But whoever did the killings was mimicking it, whether it was to cover it up to make it seem like that, or whether it was somebody that's into Odinism and is just like, we're going to put some runes down, whatever the case may be. So, but like the defense is arguing, how are you clearing this guy if you didn't extract his phone? So ultimately, to get there, to win that motion, they have to show that the evidence could have been either exculpatory or that it would be material and potentially helpful to the defense.
Sure.
So once you clear that hurdle, then you have to, in order to get a motion to dismiss, which is again the most extreme remedy.
Mhm.
Like there's no chance that they're winning this motion. Like just so we're
Sure.
clear about that. But then you have to be able to show that they intentionally destroyed it or intentionally ghosted it.
Mhm.
So, which you're not going to be able to get a cop on the stand and say, "Yeah, we intentionally deleted the video from the 17th. Yeah, we did do an extraction, but we're pretending like we didn't."
Mhm.
And Brad Holder's phone is no longer here. It's like they're saying if you're using common sense, they've done 101 phone extractions, and you're going to have us believe for 1 second that they didn't actually do an extraction of this guy's phone out of everybody. Because, like,
The one person that we'd really want to see it from. That's who you
right,
didn't do.
right. I mean, so like, it's a strong argument. She's not going to obviously dismiss the case, but I mean, it's got legs.
It
It
does. I mean,
sounds like bullshit to me, man.
I mean, it legitimately should be for consideration for dismissing the case because it's a pretty big piece of this
Yeah,
that is being just kind of like swept to the side, like, yeah, no big deal, no big deal.
I know, man. And then, so that brings us, so that concluded the first day. Second day was all one motion, and they
Yeah.
had filed coming into today. It was a couple of motions to suppress the confessions. So if you know
Okay.
anything about this case,
Yeah.
Alan, from this period of March of 2023 through about the end of June of 2023, made what we found out today like 61 what they consider like direct confessions.
Oh
Like
wow.
most of them general, like I killed the girls. Um,
Let me ask you this before you continue. People who
yeah,
actually have been convicted, we believe have killed people, do they ever make 61 confessions? I mean,
and
it
typically
almost seems
no.
inordinate to begin with.
Typically no. And
Okay.
that was kind of like, so their approach is very difficult though, because these, as we talked about earlier with the safekeeping like motion that they had, the first motion where they're trying to get them out of prison because pretrial detainees are kept in jails.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Like that's what jails exist for. Felons, convicted felons go to prison. All right. So they have this guy and they've had him since the minute he got arrested or shortly thereafter, have had him in a prison for a year and a half, going on 2 years at this
Hmm.
point. Um, and he is out of his mind. It like from March until June, because they have him in solitary 23 hours a day,
Yeah.
living like a savage. I mean, they're treating him as if he's a convict, but they have him in this safekeeping
Hmm.
thing. And that basically means that they have him on suicide watch for the first 3, 4 months he's in. So
Yeah.
they like in order to keep him safe, they're keeping him locked in a cell. They only let him out for rec 3 times a week. He's just there's no human contact. So like after about I'd say like so November, December, January, February, March. So like 5 months into like solitary, this guy starts losing his shit.
Hmm.
So when I say losing his shit, like literally eating his own
Yeah.
feces.
If you're eating your own shit, I don't think you can really take anything seriously out of your mouth. I mean, I'm not trying to make a weird pun here. I'm really not. I don't think you can. I actually inadvertently just did, but I don't think you can believe anything anyone's going to say if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's like exactly, and so their theory on this, like typically when you do a motion to suppress, which is typically defense attorneys are filing it. It's not to say the state can't, but typically it's us.
Mhm.
So like typically you're saying exactly what the statement is that you want suppressed, and you're giving like the custodial interrogation details
Mhm.
of why you're asking for it to be suppressed. Either that you weren't Mirandized, either they lawyered up, that they were being coerced, that they were, way past the period of time which they can hold you in custody. There's a bunch of reasons why you can try to get something suppressed. Here, they filed the motion trying to suppress all of the statements, not really specifying any of them in the
Mhm.
one motion, just saying all of them are garbage because of the environmental factors,
Yeah.
meaning that this guy's been held in solitary for, at this point, over a year, and that he wasn't getting proper treatment, and that he was just losing his mind.
Mhm.
And so it's a really difficult argument. It's really really tough because you're not saying, because where's the interrogation?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like they can't show that the cops were coming into the prison and questioning him.
Mhm.
He was kind of spontaneously making these statements to his wife over a recorded call, to his mother's over recorded calls. He was saying it to the nurses, doctors, like the inmates who they call suicide companions, the felons that are sitting outside his door trying to watch him. The guards are all saying that he keeps saying that he killed the girls.
But it wasn't because he just wanted to get the fuck out of that horrible situation, and that's what it's like, a survival instinct. I'll say whatever you want me to say, so you stop
Right. I
torturing
think,
me.
yeah, potentially. So they put on a bunch of witnesses again. They put on the warden. That took forever. It was basically the same thing that I heard back in June of last year with respect to the conditions that he's being housed in. And the warden's like, he's treated like every other prisoner. I'm like, no, the difference is he's not a prisoner. He's not a
Mhm.
convict. He's a pretrial detainee. This guy's just awaiting trial. So like, he's like, oh yeah, we made all kinds of accommodations for him. I'm like, okay, allowing him to, have his family come see him. He's a pretrial detainee. He's not a felon. He
Yeah.
shouldn't be falling under the same rules as the rest of the convicts
Yeah.
because he's not a convict, not at this point. So like that just kind of fell on deaf ears with me. But like they just had to establish the conditions of
Yeah.
what's being detained. And then like a really interesting witness they brought up was this Dr. Walla, who was the psychologist, that was the prison psychologist that was handling Richard Allen and his issues. And, he had made confessions to her, again, I killed the girls, and it's like, and she's going through this whole concept of that she had died like during this period of time when he's losing his shit and literally eating his shit, running into the cell wall, like full speed, smashing his head like over and over. And like he was,
Yeah.
she diagnosed him as temporary, like temporary psychosis,
Mhm.
and he falls under this kind of umbrella of, um, oh wait, did I? Oh, I'm on today's motion,
You're on
right?
today's, yes.
Okay, I mean, it's all a
Oh, I
blur,
know,
dude.
I know.
So she's saying, had I had the autonomy to be able to put him in a mental hospital to get the proper treatment he needed,
Mhm.
that's what I would have done for exactly what you were saying, just to get him the fuck out of there,
Yeah.
just get him into a place where it's more humanity around him. There's people that he's going to be able to speak to. He's going to have some kind of human contact, just to get him right again. But she's like, I couldn't because he's under this safekeeping order.
Mhm.
Now the problem is that in that unit that he's in, this like there's 255. They call it a prison within a prison. It's like super lockdown. It's for people that are hyper violent, that have fucked up some other place, or
Yeah.
for guys that are suicidal. Like he's got a camera on him 24/7, like all the time in his cell. So they're like, okay, well, she says, I definitely would have moved him to another facility, but the problem is he's got that safekeeping order, and despite the fact that the rules are like per the DOC that after 30 days is considered to be the threshold, that you cannot keep somebody safely mentally in lockdown in solitary for 30 plus days,
Mhm.
unless there's extenuating circumstances, like the dude is like a
It's like
raging
Hannibal
murderer.
Lecter or something.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So for like everybody else, you got to go out, but the problem is this order of safekeeping order is trumping that rule.
Mhm.
So the end result is they wouldn't move him out. They just kept him in solitary for all this time. So basically, the argument is that that all of those factors have been so coercive that it does it, that is an act by the state, because like typically you need a state actor who's saying, okay, yeah, man, we interrogated the shit out of this guy for 72 hours straight, didn't let him sleep,
Mhm.
like we kept the lights on, we're just harassing the shit out of him, and we finally broke him. Like, this isn't that. This is like the environment that they
Mhm.
had him in broke him. And then he starts just making all these
Yeah.
statements, like out of nowhere, and but like leading up to it, he's professing in his innocence. And once he gets right, because they started giving him tranquilizer, that's what they like, that's how they were treating him. They were tranking him. So by the end of it, by the time he gets to the new joint, like he's done confessing. Now he's professing his innocence again. And he's like, he has no recollection of
Yeah.
confessing.
You're tranking and torturing him basically and going, what he said during the trank and torture is totally valid. But we're going to
Right.
ignore all these other things that we kind of fucked up on.
Right. So, but I mean, it got
Oh,
interesting, dude, because at the end of it, when the state called their witness, they put on this cop, and he's been the cop who has been really the guy who's been listening to the 100+ hours of phone calls that
okay.
Alan made from his tablet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he essentially comes out and says, look, like I've counted, like my count, there's been 61 direct, what I'd consider to be direct confessions, most of them generic. I killed the girls.
Mhm.
He's like, but he's claiming that he made that one of the confessions contains details that only the killer would know.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and let's see, I want to get to them because there was like four different things. It was interesting. Um,
It's like, even if you are the killer, you still can't treat somebody like this.
oh no, I know. And
That's the
like,
thing.
I
That's
mean,
the
my
point
my
I think that's
counter
being made.
argument to that, to him like having knowledge, is that he was dropped off the discovery case, meaning Alan was dropped the discovery
Yeah.
in the case like on April 4th. So these things are after he has the discovery. So that kind of takes like the heat off of that. It's
Mhm.
like you want, like once he has the discovery and he can see the details,
Yeah.
what happened, because he's got the police reports, that takes the effectiveness of that. Like where you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this guy like is confessing and only the killer would know this. Well, no, you gave him, he has the discovery, so that's how he could know the details. So it doesn't have quite the same bite,
No, it
right?
doesn't. Not at
But
all.
but he said, like, yeah, one of them included details only a person involved with crimes would know. And so the prosecutor asked him that question, and the cop said, I believe that's right. That was his answer to it. And then the confessions to his wife and his mother, Kathy and his who is his wife and his
Yeah.
mother were obviously upset when he's confessing, and they're like, they're just messing with you, they're messing with your mind. And this is all through the same cop, and then they're in disbelief and they're in shock. And when he keeps saying it during this 3-month period, they're trying to change the subject. He claims that in one of them he gives motivations for the crime as to why he committed it, why he delayed in confessing. Like these are, but they're not telling us what he says. It was
Okay.
so
That was
frustrating.
gonna be
Like
my
the
next
whole
question. Yeah.
right, like they're not telling us what the fuck he said, which is the only reason I sat in there for 12
Sure.
hours.
Yeah.
I want to hear it. So ultimately, he's the last witness. They wanted to end it with a bang. I mean, it's a problem. It's
Yeah.
like they are going to be a problem for the defense.
Yeah.
Anytime you've got a guy saying I did some shit, because most people are like, I would never confess to anything I didn't do.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta walk a mile in a
Is
dude's
he
shoe.
still saying this? Is he, or there was only in that 3-month
No,
period? Okay. So now he's kind
like
of,
that's what I'm saying. That
yeah.
like
Okay.
that
Yep.
period of
That
time is the
mix.
only
Yep.
time he did it.
Yep.
And then now he's back to professing his innocence. He's got no recollection
Of
of
this.
giving
Yeah.
confession. So
Which makes sense. Honestly, from a psychological standpoint, it really does. But we know a lot of times our court system doesn't really take psychological factors into consideration where they
yes,
really should be. Yeah.
exactly. And so that ended the day, and she's going to take that one under advisement as well. Again, it's such a novel argument. I don't see that getting granted.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's going to be issues that are going to have to be brought up at trial. I mean, they're
Hmm.
going to have to delve into this. They're going to have to show the conditions
Yeah.
in which he was being held. and that he lost his shit, man. You
Yeah.
know, so tomorrow is the last day. It's going to be a big one. This is where the state is filed a what's called a motion in limine, trying
Mhm.
to exclude the defense from being able to use the third party culprit stuff. So that's your Brad Holder,
Mhm.
Patrick
Yeah.
Westfall, Elvis Fields. So tomorrow could be a banger. We could have some super interesting witnesses. So next week we should have some pretty interesting stuff to talk about
My
with that.
goodness. Yes,
Yeah.
it never fails to disappoint. I mean, it's finally we haven't talked about this for several weeks, but here we are again as it
Yep.
gets much closer. October is not far away, my friend. My goodness.
You got that right.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.